Good afternoon, everyone, and here is Mythbusters episode 157, Can Fish Drown? I assume most of you, if not all of you, have had a pet fish at some point in your life, whether it be a goldfish, betta fish, any other kind. A fish is considered a good beginner pet. This is because they're easy to care for and pretty hard to kill. I've had plenty of pet fish. It was quite a hobby of my dad's, and we had tanks in almost every room of my house growing up. One time, we had a goldfish that lived for 8 years, and it even outgrew the tank it was originally put in. At first thought, you might think this is a silly concept. There's no way a fish can drown in water. I mean, they've lived in water their whole lives. The concept is almost like the well-known argument for, is water wet? But we are definitely not getting into that. It can easily go back and forth. Well, I'm going to prove with facts that fish can drown, and we're going to dive deep into those facts and show it is very much possible. After briefly looking at the anatomy of a fish, how a fish uses oxygen, and exactly how a fish can drown, then you will see that it is very easy for a fish to drown. After looking at the Science Direct website, we can look at the anatomy of a fish. Now let's briefly talk about the organs the fish uses to breathe to get a better understanding. The gills are located on either side of the fish's body. These are large branching organs that can be seen from the outside as small slices in the fish's body. The gills consist of the gill arches, the operculum, and the blood vessels that run throughout. Each gill arch has 2 rows of gill filaments composed of flattened plates. The operculum is a gill covering which is used for ventilation. While swimming through the water, a fish opens its mouth and allows water to enter its mouth. Using its jaws and its operculum, the water is projected over the gills. While the water is flowing through the filament, the blood vessels, and more specifically the capillaries, are picking out each and every little oxygen particle that passes through. After the oxygen is transported to the heart and distributed equally throughout the body. So, to compare to the human body, fish gills dissect the oxygen from water and expel the hydrogen, and human lungs dissect oxygen out of the air and expel carbon monoxide. The definition of drowning is death by inhalation of water. This means that if humans drown by inhalation of water, then so do fish, which is exactly what happens when there isn't enough oxygen in the water. If you've ever seen a fish in a tank come up for air at the top, then it means the tank isn't supplied with enough air in the water and the fish is simply looking for a different source. A human dies underwater when there's 0 air available. This is called drowning. The same goes for a fish. It can live as long as there is oxygen. If there's no oxygen under the water, then it can't live and it drowns. According to the Fish Keeping World website, if you take a fish out of water, then its gills dry up and no longer work properly. That is why they die in only air, because their gills aren't designed for higher concentrations of oxygen, just like human lungs are not designed for higher concentrations of water. Tanks often require a secondary source of oxygen because it does not function as a natural environment. This is why most tanks have filters and like the little bubbles that come up, that's their secondary source. Fish can also drown in water if it is too populated. That's simply because there just isn't enough oxygen to go around. In a tank, oxygen can run out quickly if not replenished, according to the Fish Tank Master website. All of this is to say that fish are so similar to humans in the way they breathe. So if humans drown in water without air, then the same term can be used for fish. Now that we've covered all of the information, it is clear to see you can drown a fish even if it's not the exact same as drowning a human. The fish's surroundings are causes for the drowning, and this is also usually because of human error. So, while your first thought was that there was no way a fish can drown, I believe this newfound knowledge of yours may have changed your mind. Now, after looking at the anatomy, the use of oxygen, and the ways a fish can drown, we can say that this myth is officially busted. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have